Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Ruben, and I am the owner and head trainer of Kindred Dog PDX. So, we are definitely firing up this long form video here for YouTube because I just want to tell you a little bit more about my story, how I got started with dogs, what got me into dog training in the first place, and then just what my journey has been like that leads us up to now. So, basically, as for a lot of dog trainers, they get started because they had a very difficult dog. I didn't have a difficult dog at first. I had an easy dog, and then I got a difficult dog. So about 14 years ago, more or less, yeah, something like that. Um, Me and an old partner of mine, we got a dog together. She was this little French bulldog. Her name was Mayawa, and she was just the sweetest little dog. Anyway, she was a small dog. She was a French bulldog, and I had just this like idea or this I was used to small dogs not being so great and I didn't want that for her. So I immediately got us into training, and we were just going to Petco, doing training there, and it was just Petco training, right? It's like focusing on a lot of tricks, nothing really substantial. We struggled a lot, and that was our life. But she was a sweet dog. She was super easy, and we did the best we could. Along the way, I was reading books, getting into dog training, because it was fascinating to me at the time. And as I was getting into it, we started to notice limitations in the approach that Petco was giving us. So I was researching things, learning new techniques, tools, things like that, and just started to do more with her. I'd take her on bike rides, play with her at the park, just trying to give her the best life possible. Fast forward a little bit, my brother moves in with us, and then he gets a dog shortly after. And we're sort of doing the same thing. He's sort of taking tips from me on how to work with his dog. And so we had these two puppies. They pretty much grew up together, and they were great. They were super good. However, they also had limitations, or not limitations, but they had their issues as well. Like whenever people would come over, they would get so jacked up. When the phone would ring, because when people needed to get buzzed into our apartment, it would dial on our phone, and then they would hear the noise, and then they would just start zooming around the house. And we dealt with that for a long time, and despite best efforts of trying to remedy that, we just like couldn't. Um, so we started from watching actually Caesar Milan's show, The Dog Whisperer. He had this really great idea of putting a picture of the dogs on the front door that says no touch, no talk, no eye contact. And the idea was get your cuteness right there, because when you come in, I have rules now for the humans, and I need you to ignore the dogs for a little bit until they can relax, right? Because the humans that were coming in were actually inadvertently reinforcing that behavior. And we just didn't like it because they were going to jump on the wrong person, jump on a kid, jump on grandma, scratch their legs, what have you. And we didn't want that to happen. All right. So we had to start putting rules on our friends. And, you know, in a loving way, I think it definitely maybe riled their feathers a little bit, right? But they didn't like having rules. So anyway, they came around, and people started to just like, okay, oh wow, they notice that by us doing that, the dogs were acting better, and these things became noticeable, and people were like, wow, even though they thought we were strict at first. So we were doing this thing with our dogs, and then my brother moved to Mexico, and he ends up letting my parents watch his dog. So his dog went to go live with my parents, and we, were like, oh well, we like having two dogs around, so maybe we should get a second dog. And then my partner at the time just came across an ad, or not an ad, but a post from the Humane Society that this other French bulldog was up for adoption, but no one was really jumping on him because he had a bite on his record, and he was dog aggressive. He was leash reactive. What happened was he had like bit a kid under some circumstances. It wasn't super clear as to why that happened, but that's what he did. So he's at the shelter, and there was another French bulldog there who had one eye and had like 30 holds on him. And this dog who I ended up adopting also had been there for 2 weeks with no holds. So I went there, met him, he was barking at me, doing all that stuff. And I was just using what I had learned from Caesar about, ignoring the dog, approaching him in such a way to, remove confrontation and stuff. So I met him, and then I had to bring my other dog over to meet him. And, I made sure to take her on a nice long walk. So she was like super tired. And then, they met and everything went really well with them in the meeting yard, which was like amazing actually. Uh, and then after like 10 minutes or so, I was like, okay, I guess I can take him home now. So took him home. And it's when we brought him home is when I started to see the stuff come up. So I had to go right to work afterwards. So I put him in his kennel. I went to work, came home, and then we let the dogs out, and that was pretty much like our first mistake. So we were definitely a house of like just freedom for everything, right? And we let the dogs out of the crate. Oso comes and sits in front of me, and we're all standing around the kitchen like, look at that, how cute is that? Oso like chose you as his human. And then as soon as my brother's dog walked by, he attacked him, and that was the first time we ever saw a dog fight, and it scared us. We just had no idea that that was going to happen. And then, he went after the cat, and then he was attacking Zuma around food time. And these were, we just didn't know how to deal with these things. And so we struggled for several years. It didn't take us long to start putting things in place that were going to mitigate the fights. We started feeding the dogs in the crates and, doing things differently. But we also did a lot of things the same, that we'd have the dogs sleeping in the bed and just doing things that I'm like so happy that they didn't get in fights in those moments. But it was like we were definitely playing with fire. But after years of struggle, I was constantly asking trainers for help. I was hiring trainers, and no one could actually help us. It was like either use treats, right? Which obviously is great, but there was no answer to like, what if he doesn't want the treats, right? And I cooked steak one time and had it in my little food bag, and it's steaming and he still didn't want it. And even though he's like barking at a dog who's 100 yards away. And then another trainer who's like, squirt him in the face with vinegar when he gets reactive. He's gonna smell like a salad, but that's about it. And like, okay, I'm like, okay, that sounds good. I guess better than me, and I'd like use a whole bottle. So no one was actually able to help us in these moments, right? Um, I sent him to a board and train, and the board and train didn't help. Even though I was watching Facebook videos of Oso doing great things with his trainer, he was around dogs and stuff. I was like, wow, this is amazing. He's going to be cured. And then when I got him back, he was the same dog. There was no homework for me as what to do, which is another problem. But, like we just couldn't find the help we needed. And it was always back to the drawing board. And then this trainer is telling me he needs more time with the dog and stuff like that. And I was like, well, I'm a college student and I don't have any more money. So this is all I got. And so I was like, back to the drawing board. More on that later. But I ended up going to work with that trainer because I didn't know any better, but he ended up not being a trainer. And this was after college. So I'm in college. I'm doing stuff with my dogs, just being a dog owner. And but as this is going on, people are watching me with my dogs, and they're just observing, they're noticing like these changes happening. And even though they're small, they are definitely noticing changes happening. So after college, I'm trying to find my thing. I quit the jobs that I had. I was working at a liquor store. I was doing an internship. I was working for a dog walking company. And I quit my jobs to go work for this trainer who I had originally hired to work with Oso because I thought he was good, and I thought maybe like it was just Oso. He has his stuff. And I went to work with him for like a month and a half, maybe 2 months. And while I was there, I didn't like what I was seeing. And there was one moment that just set me over the edge, and then I left. So, and I never looked back. But after that, I was like, crap, what do I do? I don't have a job. I have no prospects. So I decided to start my own dog walking company. But I had some major imposter syndrome going on. I was like, how can I get people to trust me if I can't get my own dog to walk with me? Even though I could with my other dog, right? My little pup, the dog that I got as a puppy, she was great. Like she was just She was the golden child, I always used to say, but I used to just focus on Oso, right, and the problems he had, and I was forgetting about just all the great stuff I did with the other dog. So anyway, I'm wrestling with imposter syndrome, and one day I come across a training seminar that's in California. It's like a week long thing. And I was like, oh, this might be the thing, because I was researching it a bunch, and I was looking up the trainers, the people that were in their promo clip, and saw that they had successful businesses and stuff. So I was like, okay, maybe this will be something, because it'll help me with the business side of things, and it'll help me with my dog. So we packed up. I took him with me. I borrowed money from my parents, took money out of savings, and we drove down to Santa Cruz. And I was there for a week for this training seminar. And we learned a whole bunch of stuff. We learned about training. We learned about mindset. We learned about website development, business development, all of that. But we came back with like a brand new, like, just a brand new pathway, and it was a clear pathway. So we were making progress with Oso. I was like getting my business started, and then that's just where everything just took off. I mean, as soon as we got back into town, we had clients, and we were working with some pretty hard dogs, And the benefit to Oso was like he was a really hard dog, so he actually set me up very well on how to handle these dogs. Because at first, when he would have his reactions, I would like tense up. My breathing would stop. My palms would get sweaty, and he actually helped me learn how to influence through my energy. You know what I mean? Where it was like, if he's going to 10, I got to go to 0. So he really helped me a bunch in being able to handle really tough dogs. Because at that seminar, people were the hosts were like, "You guys are brand new. Do not work with dogs like this yet." And I was like, "Well, he's my dog, so I kind of have to." But he really set me up. And basically, yeah, like I said, that was in 2014. And it's been 11 years since we have been in business. And we have been helping people in Portland this whole time, even virtually, all of that good stuff. But it's like he set me up with so many skills, because he taught me that not all dogs are just like dogs. I couldn't figure out why he couldn't do the same things my other dog was doing, but he could do those things. He just needed a different approach. And that's what I try to help people understand about their dogs is like, there's nothing wrong with your dog. It's just they need things to be done in a certain way in order for them to be successful. Maybe if things would have been different when you first got your dog, then things could be different now, but hope is not all lost. And that's what I learned with Oso is like, there is hope for the dog. We just got to figure out how to get there. And that is just something that I've learned over all of these 11 years, traveling the country, shadowing with trainers, apprenticing with trainers, spent 3 months in LA shadowing with the trainer, learning how to work with aggressive dogs. So I have gained a ton of knowledge over this time frame, to help you and owners like you who are like me, understand their dogs a little bit better. So in the long short, in the short of it, we have a training company in Portland. We have been in business for 11 years. We work with all kinds of dogs, no matter the problem. We have a very extensive toolbox. We can help you train with anything that you want. All right. We'll help you figure out how to get you where you want to go with your dog. And I will explain to you how certain things work and why certain things work. Okay. You can hit us up. We have a website. It's just kinderddogpdx.com. We have this YouTube page. We've got an extensive Instagram channel. We've got a TikTok page. We've got a Facebook page. We've got an online training course. It's called the Calm and Connected Dog Training Reset. We're coming out with a 4-week intensive online program, which is going to really be designed to help you with your dog. Like, we got to start from the basics and work our way up. We do board and trains. So we offer a plethora of options to fit your budget, fit what's going to work for you and your dog, in-home private lessons, all of that good stuff. So, if you got questions, leave a comment. You can message me on Instagram. You can, DM me on Facebook, or however you want to get in touch. You can call us, visit our website, all of that good stuff. But I just wanted to give you all, I know this is a little bit longer video, but I think this gives you a really good idea of who we are, where we've been, how far we've come. Oh yeah, this is Lucy. Um, she came to me as a rehome. She had bit someone in the face. She was my cousin's dog, and they rehomed her to me because she was a lot of dog. She's a working cattle dog. you know, and even she required a lot of knowledge and understanding on how to do things differently with her because she was, she was human reactive. She bit people, and she hasn't bit anybody in 11 years since I've had her. So, we're keeping that up. She's about to be 12. Oh, Lou. She's getting some couch time right now after the park. But anyways, I hope this video, kudos if you stuck around this long to watch the whole video. But yeah, if you got questions, hit us up. We would love to help you with your dog. So get in touch, and perhaps we will meet each other in the future. All right. We'll talk to y'all later.